Marvel gear? Check the link in the description and use code DOOM for awesome discounts. From 20 to 60% off, use code DOOM for the coolest Marvel apparel from hoodies to sweats.
I don't wanna see you doing hard enough again.
What's poppin', people? It's your girl Spring. Sit back and relax. You are now rocking with the best. Welcome to Excelsior Now podcast, where we take your favorite guest and get to know the person behind the keyboard. So grab your popcorn, get those fiery trash emojis ready, and enjoy the show. This is your Doom Squad brand ambassador Spring, and you know the motto: let the good times roll.
Excelsior Now podcast.
What's shaking, people? It's your boy DoomkillaHD. Sit back, relax. You are now rocking with the best. And tonight we have a very, very special episode of Excelsior Now podcast. Whew. First off, you know I gotta bring the man, the best co-host on the Sunday night, the one, the only Mr. Bloody Reckless. Say hello to the people, Bloody.
Hey, yo! We got an awesome time tonight. We got one of my personal favorite bats when it comes to the dev team. They are awesome to us, but tonight we got a very special one tonight. So let's get our hands ready.
Yes, indeed. Birdman's in the chat for the one, the only Mr. Hey It's B-Wags, Brian Wagner. Hello, how you doing, good sir?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Man, we are good. We are good. Excited and happy to have you here, man. Again, thank you for allowing yourself to come on to the Excelsior Now podcast. Well, we like to take people, general people in general. I mean, from community members, from content creators, devs, to people like Paul Tassi, who, you know, journalists, and now yourself, man, and let people know that you're not just your job. There is someone behind that keyboard. And tonight, we're about to find out who Mr. B-Wags is. Let's get to it. Guys, guess what I didn't forget tonight? I have my popcorn, people. I have my popcorn. All right, y'all know how this works, man. It is 2 softball questions, and then we get right on into that popcorn, the nitty-gritty of this, and we're going to break it down to see who Mr. B-Wags is. So if you're ready, let's get the popcorns in the chat. But first, let's start off with the softball question. Softball question of the night is the same question we ask everyone who sits in the hot seat, Mr. Brian, which is, who is Brian Wagner?
I guess that is a hard question to answer. I don't know. I'm just a guy, I guess. I don't know. I'm a developer on Marvel's Avengers, lead systems and gameplay designer, which is a fancy way of saying that I oversee all the design on the gameplay systems in Warzone and our anything gameplay related. Now, I have been in the industry almost 10 years. Before that, I was an IT auditor, which is really boring and terrible. But yeah, I mean, I'm just another guy. Just been lucky enough to be able to kind of get into the game industry, and I've had some relative success doing so.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, Mr. Brian. So people kind of get an understanding of what you do at Crystal Dynamics, because you just kind of let them know, you know, exactly what it is that you kind of broke it down in, you know, your introduction of who you are. But like, just kind of let them know, so once we get started, they don't ask the crazy questions. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they can ask the crazy questions. That doesn't mean I can answer them, but they can
Right.
always ask them. We were joking around before the show started. Um, I I am on the Marvel's Avengers leadership team now, and one of the people who's working on setting our roadmap and what we want to do this year.
Oh
Um,
crap.
yep,
Okay.
nothing to. I can't talk about any of it yet.
Right.
So, but yep, that's one of the things that I've been spending the last 2.5 months on, is going through
Nice.
and figuring out what Avengers is going to look like going forward.
Woo! There's a future, people. So don't fret. There is a future. You heard the man himself. He's been working for the last 2.5 months on the future of this game. So I can't wait. So thank you for explaining what you do at CD Boss. Greatly appreciate
Yeah.
it. Now it's time to break out the popcorn. It's time. Okay. We all have these days. We all have these weeks. Sometimes it lasts months. But for you, sir, what is the most difficult part of your job? And I'm gonna sit back and relax on this one.
Probably the most difficult job for any game designer is, it's like getting good ideas or coming up with interesting ideas for games is not hard. There's no shortage of good ideas. The most difficult thing is being able to get them built and built economically, because everything costs money. Anything in a game costs money. I think there's getting that across to people is that's the biggest thing that I've learned, going from someone who plays games to someone who works on games. Is it's just like any other business, right? Like, money goes in, product comes out. Doesn't always mean that the more money that goes in, the better product comes out. Sometimes it's quite the opposite. But there's always a cost for anything that you want to build, and so trying to identify what those things should be. What are the best things for different parts of your population of game players and things like that is definitely the hardest part. So as I move more into kind of this more the role that I am in now, trying to figure out how do you strike that balance between making sure that your hardcore players are satisfied, making sure that you're taking care of new players that come in, and then taking care of more casual players that fit somewhere in between, and balancing all of that with all of the resources that you do have is a very difficult thing.
Understandable. Well, that's actually a perfect answer to the next leading, I should say, to the next question, boss, which is, would you guys consider charging for DLC and heroes if it could give us more content faster and at a higher pace, pretty much? Like, I mean,
So I want to make this caveat before we get into anything. Anything that I say now is just my own opinion, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah, no,
not,
yeah, we
it's
know
not an
this,
official
yeah.
opinion. So my take, without obviously without talking to, it's a team, right? I don't know that that's something that we would do, because we made a commitment at the beginning of the game that we were not going to charge for additional heroes or content, and so we want to respect those commitments that we made. So
Man, that's cool, boss.
Honor.
We
Yeah.
appreciate that. We definitely appreciate it. I mean, to be honest with you, as a I'm a hardcore player. I am a day oneer. Actually, I'm a negative day oneer because I was playing the beta. But
Yeah.
at this point, to be honest with you, I understand that it costs money to get the stuff that we want and we ask for, especially as a community. So at this point in time, like, if you guys were to come out and be like, "Yo, you know what, guys, we want to, honor that commitment, but for us to keep the game going in the way that you want it to be going, we have to charge for DLC." I would be with the first one in line buying it, and that's God's honest truth. I'm not even
Sure.
joking, boss.
No, I can't. And hindsight's 2020. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we made that commitment back then. Now, what that does mean is, like, that also kind of it sets this kind of the ceiling of what we can do, right? Because
Right.
we have to pay, like I've been saying, we have to be able to fund everything that we can do. So that means that cosmetics are really our main route of doing that. So so
Understandable.
that means, our cosmetic income basically dictates what we're able to do um, in terms of output that way.
That's understandable. And we get it. It took us a minute to get it, but we got it,
Yeah.
boss.
Yeah.
Final question in this segment with myself is, and it's just I kind of want to. This is a personal question for me too, because I'm starting to understand how to accept and appreciate the accomplishments that I've actually accomplished in my career as a content creator. So as a developer, what is your greatest accomplishment in your career so far? Like, from 10 years ago to today, the one thing you look at and you're like, I did that and I'm happy and proud that I did it.
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't know that I look at what I do as personal accomplishments, right?
Right.
Because
I get that.
game design and building games is so much of a team effort that, like, there's not. I mean, there's some things that single people do and get in, but it's very rare because, like, even if, like, I myself came up with a design for something and for some reason, then I also did all of the implementation on that. Like, QA has to go test it. There's other designers that are going to peer review it. There's artists that have to contribute to it. It's not all me. It's not all on me. So um, I'm happy when a team succeeds, and so I I yeah. I've had some cool experiences that I've been able to do. Uh, both working here at Crystal on Avengers, working at EA on games like Madden, and then working on Marvel Heroes before, and then even before then working at Marvel. I've had a lot of really cool experiences, but nothing. I mean, there isn't like one thing that I point to and say this is all me, because it's just not how games work.
That's completely understandable, and I'm the same way actually. That's why I'm like really clapping through your answer, because
Yeah.
if you ask any guys on Doom Squad Gaming, I never really take credit for anything because it's not just me. I mean,
Yeah.
I might come up with an idea or something, but it's them that's helping me push it out. It's those guys who doing the retweets and, hey, we want this person on Excelsior now. Let's everybody retweet it and everybody talk to the person. It's never just a sing. I appreciate you saying the team thing, dude. Like that really hit me in the heart, boss. But so thank you for that answer, for real, seriously.
Yeah.
Real quick, we're gonna run some promo and then you will be answering some questions with Bloody Reckless. It's
Okay.
called The People Ask. So let's listen to our homegirl, Miss Gamer Nerd Queen, and she's gonna tell you guys what we do on Friday nights. Every Friday night, the DSG Block Party. Here you go.
And family over everything, so DSG, he rocking it. World domination, baby, ain't nobody topping that.
Hey guys, Queen here, and welcome to the all-new, different DSG Block Party. Every Friday night, come rock with the best. Different games each Friday night, from Avengers to Destiny to Among Us and more. Join your favorite team playing some of the hottest games out there. So squad up with the DSG Block Party. This is your Doom Squad gaming brand ambassador, Gamer Nerd Queen, and you know the motto, let the good times roll.
All right. Bloody, I'm gonna go ahead and put you in the captain seat. We'll bring Mr. B-Wags up here real quick. And I'll see you guys shortly. Peace out, people.
Oh man, I tell you, those promos never get old, man. I tell you, shout out to Gamer Nerd for that. Man, what an awesome treat, man, to have you up here.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Of course, like I said, man, we're not going to ask you any questions that have to deal with the roadmap or heroes coming. We'll get that information from you guys when you guys are ready to present it. But on a note such as that, some of these questions are pretty difficult, so I'm not going to tell you.
I didn't study.
The way I'm gonna ask him, I'm gonna just hit him with you straightforward.
Okay.
So, start us off. Shout out to my man JDC. I believe he's also in this chat. He had a question, a very good one. What do you consider to be the most challenging aspect of development for this game? Assuming he's talking about Marvel's Avengers.
There's not enough time to do everything that we want. That's really one of those things. It's not just with this game. It's really anybody who works on games will tell you that there's not enough time. There's just never enough time to do everything that you want. Like you'll have production who, sets all the deadlines for when patches and releases have to be finalized, and when content cutoff is, and when bug fix cutoff is, and when build lock is, and you're still trying to get in that last bug fix for, we've had people trying to figure out a claw raid bug that not everybody, but lots of people are seeing, but you can't reproduce internally, and you think you have a fix for it, and you want to get it in last minute, and there's probably not going to be enough testing, so you can't do it. It moves to the next release. Like, there's just never enough time for everything. You could work 24 hours a day on a game, and there's still never enough time to get everything done that you want to get done.
Wow, timing. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Someone invents a time machine that will fix everything, I think. And it's also one of those things where, like, people, I've said this a couple times, and people will say, well, just hire more people, and it's not something we're just throwing more bodies at something can help. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you can spin up another team, and that definitely helps. Sometimes it is just a matter of number of resources, but a lot of times it's, there's only so many people who can be doing so many things within a certain build, and adding more bodies on that sometimes can make it almost worse than not. So it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, but you made a good point. Sometimes adding more people to the situation may seem like outside looking in like it's better, but if you already have a core, group, and have a core way of doing things, and it actually produces, then that's so much better than trying to rush through something, and then the plans that you do have are thrown out the window. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
For sure.
Another question. This one's from cute little Chaos Kitty. She is also a channel member. Shout out to her. She asked, how did it feel to get hired for a Marvel project again after having worked on Marvel Heroes before? And how much does this job feel the same or different? That's a good question.
It was interesting. I mean, like, I wasn't even really looking to leave when I was at EA working on Madden. I mean, I was working on Madden, for God's sakes. Like, it's hard to work on a higher profile game than that. And I had some really good exposure there. I was able to, build a bunch of systems and work on some really big parts of that game. But I don't know, when Crystal came knocking, I felt like I had, it had been at that point 3.5, almost 4 years since all things happened at Gazillion. I felt like I was much more prepared, and I felt like I had grown and learned a lot more as a designer, and I felt like there was a lot more that I could offer coming in and working on this here. So it was changing jobs is always tough, and it's you never know what you're really getting into, but I think it was a good move, and I think we're doing some good stuff right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we can agree on that.
Yeah. Oh, I guess the second part of that was asking how much it's the same or different. I don't know. I'd say 90-10. It's 90% different, 10% the same. This game is so much different, and the studio is so much different than what I worked with before. And the leadership is different. Everything's just completely different. Obviously, having worked at Marvel previously, knowing how they work, kind of help get me up to speed quicker. But this has been a totally new, totally different experience than that.
Interesting. So on that note, this is another question. This is from a good friend of mine, as well, I think, as a channel member, Mad Max Stone. When speaking about Marvel's Avengers, what was the game design's inspiration? What inspired you guys to make the game as it is in terms of a design? What was the inspiration behind that?
I can't really speak to the original one because that had been, I mean, I joined the team back in June, and by then the game had already been out for almost a year at that point. We're at a point now where we have a good idea of what works, in our game and what resonates with our players, and just trying to find ways to do more of that, and do that in a economical way and in a way that we can get things out at a decent clip, and so that's what we've been spending the last couple months doing, is trying to figure out, okay, we've identified kind of the key pillars of what our game is and what our players like about it. How can we focus on those things and do more of them while making sure that the product is profitable and that we can get things out in a time frame that keeps our players engaged. So inspiration wise, I don't know. It's hard to say because you don't ever really sit around and like, I need to be inspired. I mean, obviously we look at other games in the genre that do things well, do things similarly. And of course, like Destiny, Division, those games definitely pop up when it comes.
Okay.
Yeah. I get a lot of, when it comes to online service games, especially in the role-playing game genre, I always look to World of Warcraft because, I mean, not only do they do it really well, they've been doing it for a very long time, and so they've been able to, continually iterate, continually keep players engaged, and put out content at a clip that it's near impossible for any other studio to match. So I tend to look at some of those things. For me, in terms of inspiration, it also depends on like what area I'm looking at. So like on the system side, like when I was designing the shipment system, I was looking at other, if you look at it less like a, just a cosmetics delivery system, and you look at it more in terms of like, okay, online service games that keep people engaged and give them longer term goals, which is something I know I've talked about on several streams, which is things that we focusing on, which is, we've done a lot of stuff with like short term goals, like you have your dailies, you come in, you do that, you have your weeklies, you come in and do that. But like, what are your longer term goals, right? Like after you do those for the week, what do you work on? And so, we're working on a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, I tend to look at other games that have longer term engagement systems that work really well, and take a look at how they get players hooked. What's their frequency of update? What's their mixture of content in there? And so you just kind of take a look and see, because nothing's a one-to-one comparison. Like we can't really just say like, oh, we look at Destiny for all this stuff and then we do what Destiny does, because that's not what our game is. It's a looter game, right? And it's an online service game, but they have full control over their IP. We're a licensed game. They can basically create and alter whatever they want to do with their classes. We have to make sure that ours, they're first of all fun, right? That people want to engage with them, but we have to make sure that they meet player expectations for, what Hulk does, what Black Widow does, which was one of the first things that I did when I worked at Marvel, was it's called like brand assurance a little bit, which is at that time Disney Infinity 2.0 was being worked on, and so I spent a lot of time playing with all the different heroes that were in there, making sure that they all felt like they were supposed to. Like, you know, one of the first things I noticed was like Black Widow had a double jump power slam. That Hulk had the same one, and I'm like, the two like they shouldn't have that same sort of power set. Like those things shouldn't feel the same.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, where, you know, it's a little bit different. Like, let's say Destiny added a new class, or Division added a new class, like, you know, next week or whatever. But there would be some player expectations about what it's about. Like if they launched it and they didn't tell you what it was, or they didn't tell you anything about it, there would be some expectation around, like, oh well, you know, let's say it's a heavy gun or something. You know, there's some expectation around that, but not the same as like people who have been watching films or reading comics or any of that stuff about any sort of character that we would put in. There's a whole lot more player expectation around that. So it's a big thing to try to tackle at the same time as when you're whether it's a, you know, a playable hero, or if it's a piece of content or a villain or whatever it may be.
Sweet. Man. Oh man. We are definitely getting able to know who you are personally, and, you know, thank you for that.
Yeah.
This question's also pretty interesting. It's another I guess I wouldn't call it a softball question, but more of like a solo question. Question that gets to know more about you.
Okay.
What are the top 3 characters not already in the game, speaking about Marvel's Avengers, you personally would like to play in Marvel's Avengers? Any Marvel character. Let's assume you all get the go-ahead to add them sometime in the future. No restrictions. Who are you picking? And that is from 7-Bit Brian. Shout out to him.
I need the popcorn for this. I got to come back for the popcorn for this one, yo.
I'm sitting back.
So I don't know that I'm going to actually answer this truthfully, because anything that I say on this is, you know, people are going to take it and say, oh, well, this character's coming, which is not the case. Right. But I mean, I've been that very question has been something that we've been, as we're working on the roadmap and looking at the future, it's like, what do we want to do? What heroes do we want to add? And for me, I look at it as what makes the most sense for our narrative in the game. And I think, you know, I think that's the right answer, which is what fits right, you know, what feels right, who makes sense to come in the part. If you look at the overarching narrative of where a game has gone from launch through all the additional content, like who would make sense to come in and help the Avengers with whatever threats they're facing. So I'm not actually going to give names. I'm going to cop out on that. Because I feel like it would set up some speaking of setting up player expectation, but that's the most important thing for me, because let's say there is some hero out there, like everybody who knows me from before knows that I'm a huge War Machine fan. Okay. Ooh. Now it'd be really easy for me just to say War Machine, but in the terms, if you look at kind of the scope of this game, like, does it? Sure, you could build him and add him in, but like, it would kind of, one of the big strengths of this game is its narrative, right? Like every hero that's come in has had in some form a reason why we're introducing him. It's not like we're in Marvel Heroes, we were just like, here's Rogue, and then, you know, here's Ultron, right? Here's a playable Ultron. We do everything very carefully. I mean, we have a narrative team, like we have a team dedicated to like crafting our narrative and what comes from that. So I'm very happy with where we are right now and what we're looking at, and I think it's pretty good. But as far as ones that I would pick, I don't want to tip my hat anyway to that. But,
that's understandable.
I'm afraid I would say something that I shouldn't, because I've been actually working on that question in the past week or two. So.
Oh wow, that's
intense,
actually, Brian. You just made it more intense, man.
Yeah.
Brian,
So
you got your question sort of answered. So that's a good question. If anything, you should get out of that. It was a super good question that even our dev couldn't answer.
So what I want to say is what Alien just put in there, which is War Machine wouldn't fit into the current narrative. Anything could fit into the narrative. Like we could build whatever into the narrative that we want, right? But some make more sense than others.
Yep.
You know, especially in terms of like characters that may have been referenced, you know, like in different parts of the game so far, and then just how our story has progressed in terms of like the Cosmic Cube, like what kind of possibilities does that open up? So there's some cool stuff.
I respect that. I can appreciate the narrative has been. Nobody can say that the narrative has been squishy or anything. The narrative has been like super solid. I mean, even since the story, just like the progression of it, it's been super solid.
I mean, I'm gonna keep it 100 right now. Playing Kate Bishop in this game has made me a Kate Bishop fan. I mean, I kid you not. I mean, that's for real. Like, I started reading the comics again. I was like, okay, let me go get my Young Avengers on. Let me get my, weapon. Excuse me. The Hawkeye run, the Life as a Weapon run. I read that. I was just like, okay, cool, man. Like, I'm good. I'm good now. So
it was also something that I kind of, when I took over this role, I looked at kind of the different pieces of content that, whether we've talked about at some point that had been things that have been worked on, like floating labs and patrols. Whereas like content wise, we've looked at them and have worked on them and have built them as modes, right? Like as things to play. But everything, and this is a big thing that Marvel gives us feedback on too, is like we want everything to make sure, like at the center of Marvel, at the center of everything that they do is strong storytelling. So we want to make sure that everything is a part of that narrative, and that there's reasons for why you're doing it, right? Like we're not just putting things in just to put things in. So I spent a lot of time with the team and looked at a lot of the content and pieces of content and things like that have been built and worked on over the course of the years, I should say, that haven't been released yet, and said, hey, what makes sense? Like, how can we take these and maybe adjust them from what they originally were going to be into playing a part in the new overarching narrative? And we've done some so long story short, there's reasons why modes that we've talked about, like cloning labs and patrols, haven't come out as quickly as we originally thought because of that. Because we want to make sure that they fit that, not only fit that narrative, but are good experiences, and that we're giving players what they expect, right? And what they want from it. So there's a lot of, everything goes kind of through the lens of what's the story, what's the narrative, and then what can we do with that to make fun and engaging pieces of content.
So, can I ask you a question? I don't know if you'll be able to answer it. If you can't, you can't. You just mentioned cloning labs, and we have all thought that cloning labs was scrapped. So,
nope.
Is cloning labs still a thing that may happen in the game? If you can answer that, I'm not sure if you can or can't.
It has to be, because I got a piece from Cloning Labs. It gives me a 1.1% heroic charge for Cloning Labs.
Nothing is ever scrapped. It is just put on hold.
Okay,
and so
that's good enough. You don't have to delve into that. We appreciate you, bros. Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah, you're good, B. You're good, boss. No, don't get yourself in trouble, Captain. We're good.
But I will say this, right? Because Cloning Labs is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an example for some of the issues that we've had as a product, which is we talk about something and be really close, and then we would get to a point where we're saying, yes, we could launch this, we could put this out, but it doesn't reach our standards. It doesn't meet our standards. We want something to be better. This part of it doesn't click, and so then we hold it back, and then we hold it back, and then we say, okay, we're working on Wakanda, right? So let's move those resources over there. Or we're moving, we're going to work on the claw rate, so let's move those resources over there. So it means that like pieces of content like that may have been very close before. And I'm talking close as close gets to being able to release. At the last minute, we say, we we're not happy with how it would launch right now, and we don't want to put something else. We don't want to put something out like that where we don't think we're putting our best foot forward.
Man, I would appreciate that. You know what I mean? Because we do give you guys a lot of crap for stuff. You know what I mean? And I know some of that stuff isn't per se your fault. You know what I mean? So thank you for taking those precautions, man. We appreciate it. Seriously.
There's reasons for everything, right? And sometimes we can't necessarily talk about those reasons because nobody wants to air dirty laundry, right? And a lot of it too is like it's inside baseball, which is it doesn't really matter. But I mean, there's reasons for everything that we do, and why some things move forward, why some things get pulled back. But just because something gets pulled back doesn't mean that it won't have its time to shine.
Sounds good to me. Did you have one more question for him, Blood, or was that it?
I got one. I do. Yeah, I do have one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
Pull that up. I know who asked it. They are in the chat. Casual. Here it is. Has the idea of adding more Echo style heroes in the future been a conversation?
Has it been a conversation?
Have you guys just
that's a very
Echo heroes?
That's a sneaky question, dude.
It's like I don't know if anybody's ever watched The West Wing, but there's an episode of The West Wing where like in a press conference they're asked like, well, has the president considered X? And the basis of the question is such that like by them asking the question, then they're at that point they're considering whatever they're asking. So it's a leading question. Yes, we have. There's not a lot of what I can say on that. We are looking at ways to at heroes that might make more sense to be, more Echo characters. I would, if you take the example of like, let's use the razor of Hawkeye and Kate, right? So they're both archers, but they are not what I would call Echo characters of each other.
Different to me.
While they both have swords and they both have bows, their kits and mechanics are very much different. They have different builds. They have different heroics, all that stuff. Where an Echo character to me in terms of design is saying like, this is, something like a Cap versus a U.S. agent or something like that, where their power sets don't necessarily change. And so, yeah, we've talked about that. I guess it's an interesting proposal because we now have 10 heroes out, each of them with very bespoke kits, all of them that feel very different and very unique, to the point where I honestly think that any of our heroes could be in their own single player game with their kits as they are and could carry a game because of that. And it's, when you think of it like that, it's kind of nuts. And so, but the downside of that is it takes a long time to develop those, right? Each from beginning to end, building a hero. I've been around for 2 that have launched. Those from beginning to end, it's an 8-month process, 8 to 10-month process on them. And so obviously, now when I say it's not 8 to 10 months in between, because different disciplines overlap. So like you have concept and stuff start early, and then once it gets moved into production and concept and that stuff can start on the next one, right? So it's the magic of production of being able to balance all that stuff. But like how when I started, how Black Panther was progressing along, and then how other teams are starting to work on Spider-Man. So it's a long process. So yes, we're all looking at ways of reducing that time, right? But it also comes with the fact of saying, like, would our players be happy with Echo Heroes, right? How would they feel if we released another hero? Granted, they're going to be free, right? They're still part of that. But if we release another hero that is, the same as an existing one, with maybe a few different powers and some animation changes, I don't know. But it's something that we talked about it before. What I'm saying isn't anything new. And we're working on different options.
Sounds good, boss. Sounds good. You can leave it at that, Brian. Don't, you know what I mean? You don't have to go into detail. We get you, boss. Real quick, we're gonna run a little quick promo for Fire or Trash t-shirts, guys. If you want one of these fresh, cool looking shirts, she is going to tell you where to get it at. So holla at my homegirl Spring, and she'll break it down how and where to get your Fire or Trash promo and t-shirts from. Let's get it.
Fire or trash, the only thing you can answer to the questions I ask. Fire or trash, the only thing you can answer to the
Hey guys, it's Spring. Sit back and relax, you are now rocking with the best. So why don't you look your best by rocking your very own Fire or Trash t-shirt. Where to get it, you might ask? Go to financialfelons.com and use code DOOM for 15% off. Support your favorite team and look fly doing it. Take a picture in your shirt and send it to us at DoomSquad_DSG on Twitter, and we will be sure to shout you out. I'll be looking forward to seeing your swag. Don't forget, use code DOOM at checkout for your 15% off. See you soon, and let the good times roll.
Fire or trash, the only thing you can answer to the questions I ask. Fire or trash.
All right. Get out of my seat, bloody. Get out of my seat, good sir.
It's good while it lasts.
It does, doesn't it? It does feel good to sit in the captain seat. So that's why I'm sitting back in the captain seat, sir, because it feels good. Mr. B Wags, Brian, Mr. Wagner, it is time for a little bit of fun on the show. This is the portion where we play a little childhood game of mine called Would You Rather.
Okay.
In this portion of Would You Rather, we'll be doing a little bit of Marvel versus DC. But I have to ask everyone this question that sits in the hot seat. Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield? Please answer correctly.
Man.
Please answer correctly.
Come on. Oh, God. You got to think about it. Oh, God.
No, I have the answer. I'm just trying to think of how to package it. I think Andrew Garfield is criminally underrated. I liked him much more as a Spider-Man. Now, I'm not saying Tobey Maguire is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just thought that Andrew Garfield captured more of kind of what I thought who Spider-Man is from what I've seen and read. So I guess that's my final answer. I'm guessing I didn't answer correctly.
I thought we were going to be friends, Brian. I thought we were going to be besties, bro.
That one hurt,
Like,
dude.
So,
I was going to.
You want to know what it?
Sadat, you win this one.
So there was I am over 40 now, officially. And so there was some movie that I have to find now where Tobey Maguire voiced, it was some pet movie. And he was the voice of this Cats and Dogs. I saw that before I had seen Spider-Man. And so whenever I hear Tobey Maguire talk, still I think baby puppy. So it's just one of those
I
things.
get it. I got
Where
you.
I had no idea who Andrew Garfield was before he was Spider-Man. So
Okay. That makes sense. We still, our friendship is still tentative right now, but it makes. All right, let's get. Oh gosh, you just broke my heart, Brian. I'm sorry.
sorry.
I need a second to recover.
Baby
I need a
puppy.
second.
Now I'm gonna start remembering that.
It's okay for people to think different things.
It definitely is. But I thought we were going to be friends. Nah, me stop it. All right, DC versus Marvel. Let's get this started. Now, I've seen this all over the internet, so I have to ask you: Thanos or Darkseid?
Thanos.
Can I get a why?
Can I get a why that? Yeah.
Are we talking DC cinematic versus MCU?
Just in general. I mean, you can go just whatever version of them that you like. So
I never was a big. I mean, I've always been much more of a Marvel fan than I am a DC fan. So I lean more. I know there's probably not going to be an answer here where I go DC over Marvel. But if you just look at if you compare this, the motivations and storytelling and the setup and the craftsmanship that they had just setting up, that it's like 20 movies to set up a villain, right? Like that's incredible. And whenever you do that, you can build a more rounded out character than you can if you just dump it in, and like kind of happened with what DC did with Justice League. And so Thanos, I think Thanos is one of my favorite characters of all time, so it's hard for me not to pick that.
Nice. I didn't know that. That's something good to know then. Thanos confirmed for Avengers. Anyway, Solomon Grundy or the Hulk?
I don't know who Solomon Grundy is, so I'll go Hulk.
Oh gosh. Okay, this should be an interesting one for you then. Superman or Thor?
Thor. Superman's the most boring superhero ever made.
God, he answered that so quick.
And I will die on that hill.
Gosh. Okay, do not attack Brian for his Superman thoughts, y'all. Do not.
He's just boring to me. It's like you just make someone who's good at everything. Like there's no depth there. It's just I don't know. I like my. I don't know if it was Stan Lee that said that like Marvel starts with people. We'll start with people and make them into superheroes. Right. And that's why their characters are so successful, where DC starts with superheroes and try to make them people, which is it's hard to make that work, right? And that to me, like that's the problem with Clark Kent and Superman. Like he starts as an alien with all these incredible powers, and then they try to make him vulnerable, and it all just kind of felt shoehorned. And it's like I don't know. I think there have been some. I think not to say that Superman doesn't have faults, right? And you can't make a deeper Superman character that is more complex than just truth, justice, and the American way. But like all of in this essence, like Thor is very much the same way. But I mean, he goes through so many more trials. He's not just kind of like he's not gifted, right? Like he has to be worthy in order to wield the hammer and his powers, and what that means to him, and how he has to make sure that he's supporting those ideals, and he's working just to be a better man, better Asgardian. I guess you can't say man because he's not human, but then it's just a guy who can shoot lasers out of his eyes. So
yes, indeed. Okay, well, this one I guess the rest of these should be really easy for you.
I guess I was a little spicier on that than I thought I was.
I liked it though. It made sense. Like, cause okay. Well, a random one. I don't know if you watch. Do you like anime at all?
It's not really my thing.
Okay, never mind
I've
then. Don't
watched
worry
some of
about
it, but
it.
I haven't really. Yeah.
Don't worry about it then. We're good. Black Panther or Batman?
Ooh.
This is one where I'll kind of buck my trend, I guess. I don't know that I would really. I don't know how much I would compare the two of them really, other than wearing a lot of black. But, I don't know. This is tough because there's some comic runs and some films that have done Batman have done a really good job with him, but he also suffers a lot from that that Stan Lee. I think it was Stan Lee that said that quote of heroes first, character people second, where it's like the whole my superpower is I'm rich. It's like okay, like, but there's I mean he definitely had a lot of trauma that Bruce Wayne went through, but at the same time it's like so everybody did, and you had a butler get you through it. So it's like there's only so much that I can feel bad about that in terms of trauma that he's gone through, and how it shapes that it then motivates him to go beat the crap out of people in a bat suit versus other things that he could be doing. I haven't ever really seen a good like I haven't seen like a Batman where I admire Bruce Wayne as much as I do the ideals of Batman, where it's always like he's rich and he runs a mega corporation, but I haven't really ever seen anything where it's like he's trying to. Not only is he trying to do good as a superhero, but also do good as Bruce Wayne. Like you have a lot of money, you could be doing a lot of stuff with that. And to be fair, like if you look at Black Panther, like that was a big part of the message of the film, which is like they have so much wealth and there's so much that they could be doing to help other people of color across the world. I mean, granted, Killmonger just wanted to do it with guns, and they decided to do it with non-guns. But so like I think there's a lot of stuff that I would like to see Bruce Wayne do to be a better person and help the world more than I really care about. Like he's got cool gadgets and stuff.
Sounds good to me. Okay. Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman, or Zatanna?
I don't know who Zatanna is.
The magician girl from Justice League.
I still don't know who that is.
Okay,
So we'll go Sue Storm there.
Got you. Dr. Voodoo or Dr. Fate?
I don't know a lot about either, so I'll pass on this one. I can't really pick.
Come on, dude.
Easy one. This should be super easy for you. Deadpool or Deathstroke?
Can I pick neither?
Why would you pick neither?
I don't know. Deadpool to me is a little cliche, and I don't know if it's just because like having worked in Marvel games a lot, like I've seen a lot of like bad takes on Deadpool, right? Like I played a lot of games where they're just like ha 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 chimichangas, and then like expect some big laugh, and it's like there's so much more depth to that character that people get into rather than just trying to be a wise ass, which a lot of games do. So
I see on them.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'll probably still go Deadpool, but he's not my favorite Marvel character by far.
Got you. All right, Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman? Ooh, it got spicy.
Struck a nerve.
I'd say they're probably tied for me.
Oh, what makes them? Yeah, I gotta know what makes them tied because they're completely different. You know what I mean? So
They are, but I think they both have very strong personal codes that they stick to, and they they know what they believe in, right? And they stand up for that, and they don't compromise that, and I respect that out of both characters. So, um, and they both kind of have their own struggles and how they get there, and know that it's not an easy path to walk. So, um, yeah, I kind of respect both of those. If I had to pick one or the other, I would probably go Captain Marvel, just because I think the idea of an invisible jet is stupid.
Invisible jet.
I was not expecting that, bro.
I just there's some things that DC does that I just make me shake my head.
Oh God, I'm sorry, you killed me with that one.
And like I thought the same thing when they made the helicarrier invisible in Avengers 2. I was like, okay.
What? Yeah. Okay. The Flash or the Sentry? Mm.
I guess I know I am
brave, right?
I'm more up to speed on the Flash than I am with Sentry.
Okay.
So I'll probably go Flash there.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Whew. Now this one's gonna hit you close to home, B. This one's gonna hit you close to home, man. Marvel's Heroes Omega or Marvel's Avengers?
I can't answer that.
I'm not even doing
well,
it.
no, it's not only that. I mean, it's like they're both very different games, right?
Very different.
And this is something that I see a lot. Like, I'm out there. I'm reading the comments. I'm seeing the discussions on Twitter that people may think that I don't see, but like when Marvel Heroes was like the hook was the vast amount of heroes that we could put out because of the way that we built them, right? And it was a much more archetypal sort of system, and whenever we determined what a hero's archetype was, we knew 90% of their kit mechanically, and then a lot of it would just be kind of flavor and how it worked, with some obvious kind of exceptions to that. But Avengers is much different. Like, it's much more focused. Like, I see a lot of discussions, people talking about what heroes they want to see, and they're like, I want Moon Knight or I want Daredevil, and I'm like, this is an Avengers game, right? Like, or they start talking about X-Men, or this Fantastic Four. I'm like, this is an Avengers game, right? It's focusing on the Avengers. Like, yes, everybody at some point has been a provisional member of the Avengers, and you could make a case for pretty much anybody in the Marvel universe at any point, but it's an Avengers experience, right? Like, there are so many, A tier, B tier Avengers that I think should have their time to shine in our universe versus, someone from another team that isn't necessarily associated with that. Where compared to Marvel Heroes, where like we had Magneto, right? Like we added all these villains and stuff too. So it was just kind of fulfilling the Marvel universe fantasy in Marvel Heroes versus a very focused, very universe driven Avengers fantasy in our game, which is, these are our heroes. You spend a lot more time with them and you go a lot deeper with them than we did with any of our heroes in Marvel Heroes. And we want you to be attached to them. We want you to care about what happens to them. Where, there are no consequences in Marvel Heroes, right? Like, we just added more and more, and we try to do some hand wavy story nonsense to make it make sense why like Loki was playable, where we have a very, very defined universe in this game, and we want to bring in characters that make sense in that universe and have something to add in that universe, not just this is so and so's favorite Marvel character and we should find a way to shoehorn him in.
Right. Man, I am so upset because I only got to play Marvel Heroes for about 3 months. I never knew about the game. Like I wasn't into YouTube at the time. And like I've slipped up and found it and was like, oh my God, this is the greatest game I've ever played. And I
We
went
did
to
a bang up
log
job
in.
marketing, didn't we?
But I logged in one day and it was just gone, and I almost cried, man. That game, that was a good game, and I'm just like I said, I'm so mad that it ended the way it did because it was a
Marvel
really good
Heroes and the trajectory that Marvel Heroes went is a very important thing for anybody who likes licensed games, who wants to play licensed games. It's a very interesting view on that, which basically is if your game is not profitable, it will not be around long term. And that was the problem with Marvel. Like everybody loves to make up these weird, crazy reasons why it shut down and like allegations on our CEO and blah 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 and all this stuff. And it's not like Marvel Heroes was profitable 2 months out of its entire lifespan, and that's the problem. It never made enough money. Attempts that we made on Marvel Heroes to try to monetize additional things were met with backlash, and so we eased off of those things, and we never were able to find a way to keep it profitable. And because of that, the game closed, and people lost their jobs. So like the games industry is ruthless. It is absolutely ruthless. And like service games especially, to stay ahead, it's a very, very difficult path. So it's one of those things where like it's tough out. It's making games is hard.
I got you, boss. No worries at all, at all. Real quick, let's get some more promo going. We're gonna let's talk to Spring one more time. She's gonna tell you how to become a channel member, and then we'll take some questions from the chat. And all questions are on the board because you have to be a moderator or a channel member to be even chatting right now anyway. So let's talk to Spring. Spring hype in the chat real quick, and then we'll get right back to Brian.
Hey guys, it's Spring, and I've got a question. Do you want to rock with the best? Well, here's how. Hulk smash that join button and become a member of the squad. Members help propel the Doom Squad forward in this process of content creation, live streams, watch parties, community nights, and giveaways. If you're wondering, well, what do I get for helping out DSG? Here's the cool part. Channel members get access to the members-only section of the Doom Squad Gaming Discord, where you get access to playtime with all the members, early access with no ads to Doomkilla's builds, news, and first impression videos, priority replies during live streams, Excelsior Now podcast, the weekly wrap-up, and all live reaction events. One of the coolest benefits to becoming a member is the members-only giveaways. Get access to Marvel's Avengers credits, DSG gear, PlayStation and Xbox gift cards, and more. Join the channel now and become a member of the squad. This is Perry, your Doom Squad Gaming brand ambassador, and as Doom would say, let the good times roll.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let the good times roll, and we rolling, people. So, it's time for you guys to get your questions in. You already know how we do this. No questions asking about the future of the game, or they're just literally going to get ignored. I'm not going to ask him because we've discussed this already, guys. So get your questions ready for Mr. Brian Wagner, because we are ready to ask him those questions that you guys right now, the people who help run this channel, you guys get to ask the questions. So let's get it.
Questions about the future of the game aren't immediately off limits. But I'm not announcing anything here. Right? So if you're saying what's the next hero, like that I can't talk about, but there are some questions that can be asked about, future direction of the game that I can probably dance around.
Okay, well, you heard the man. He said, be cool with your questions. So if you got something that you may want to know about the future of the game, as long as it's not the roadmap, or heroes dropping or anything like that, Please
we
be
got one.
feel free to ask. That's cool with me. Sadat the gamer asks, were shipments already being worked on when you arrived at TD? And if not, what was the system for the cosmetic rework that it replaced? Is that a question you can answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, shipments were my design. Um,
Hey.
uh, I don't know what the original plan was for the cosmetic rework. Um, we don't have a lot of time to kind of sit around and kind of navel gaze and have me ask about like, oh, what was the original? Like that was months before I came on.
Yep.
And so we knew that like the basically the brain download that I got was just that the old system wasn't very rewarding. It was very RNG based in terms of like getting anything, right? You didn't have a direct path really aside from the limited options that were on the cosmetic vendor. And so we wanted to add a system that you could engage with regularly to get more and different types of cosmetics through gameplay. And so that was kind of the the razor that I got, and I designed the system that I thought would work for that. So yeah, like I said, I could go back and look, I guess. And see,
I
but
don't think it's that important, boss.
yeah, I don't know.
Next question is from Grime Here Gaming. What's the biggest misconception players have about developing games? Avengers specific or in general? It's your choice.
I have a few that are probably all the same. The first one is games make more money games do not make more money than people think they do. Or if they know how much a game makes, they assume that all goes to one of two places, one being executives or two being right back into the game. And neither of those things are right. So how games are like I said before, are cutthroat, right? Like
Yeah.
any way that you can help generate revenue for your game, especially a service game, compared to fixed cost single player games. Like if you compare Avengers to like Tomb Raider, right? Tomb Raider was a game, and they spent X amount to develop it. They shipped it, right? And then all the box sales that come in went to pay for that development cost, and anything after that development cost was profit. Hey, and then they say, okay, is there appetite for making more? And then they say, okay, is more an expansion, which is another piece of fixed content, or it's a sequel, right? Compared to a service game like Avengers, which is you have the initial development costs of the game, you have the box sales of the game that come in, but then you also have the ongoing development costs of creating the content for the live service aspect of the game, which are not small. And so games have to try to that games that are want to engage people long term like ours do. It is a very difficult thing to make sure that you are not living outside of your means, which is like the content that you're building, and the pace at which you release content matches the money that you're making, or in a perfect world, 1-to-1, right? So money coming in goes back into the game, and that's how it works. And it's hard, man. Like it's difficult. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of new games come and go. There's a lot of service competition like Game Pass. So yeah, it's constantly trying to innovate and trying to find ways to keeping people engaged and playing is another one, and finding things that they are interested in spending on is another, because that revenue is critical to keeping the game going.
Got you. Question from channel member Mammoth Eagle. I actually want to know this answer too, if you can possibly answer it. Is a join in progress feature possible in the future?
Yes, anything's possible. It's just a matter. It's just I mean, me saying that it's possible doesn't mean that it's probable, right? Like,
True.
it's software. You can do anything.
It's hope for me. That's all. That's all I need is hope. That's all, Brian. That's hope for me, man.
I
Um,
mean, if you think of patrols, right?
mhm.
And what a patrol system is, and like things that Phil had talked about before when he was on streams talking about how patrols are kind of our design principles for patrols. It's having a way for people to come in and come out, so you're not constantly leaving and requeuing to go back in. Like the whole point of a patrol is a mode that you stay in long term, and it's not a linear piece of content. So in a world where we release patrol as a feature, um, you would think that a system that allowed people to queue and requeue and fill in groups would be important. Again, I'm not announcing anything, but that's just kind of
Makes sense. Makes sense.
just kind of how we look at that, right?
Good question from. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure this is actually a good question. That's not actually a question at all. Okay, here's a question from Misplaced. When loading for the missions in the chapters, would they ever consider the characters having a little random banter instead of loading silence? It may be a no, but just a thought. That's actually a good question.
I don't know, because 9 times out of 10, those loading screens are, or that those periods are for loading, right? And trying to do other things while loading can be difficult. And it's not just doing something while loading is difficult, because there's lots of games that have loading screens, and even us, like in the raid, as you're loading in or streaming into a new area, we play cinematics, and that's why sometimes you can skip through, sometimes you can't. And it's also different based off of what platform you're on. So if you're on like a first generation Xbox One compared to someone who's on a Series X, like Series X will be able to go through it faster than someone else. So there's a lot of different aspects of that and on the engineering side that we have to think of and manage. And sometimes it's just I don't want to say it's just too hard. It's too complex, and adding a layer of saying like, okay, well now we want to, on top of trying to do all that crazy networking stuff and make sure that the game doesn't puke and disconnect and all the bad stuff that can happen, let's try to add on another layer of adding in VO in the background. Sometimes a loading screen is just a loading screen, and we got to let that be so that we don't overcomplicate stuff. So it would be nice. It would be great. I don't know. It's not something that we're working on, I guess, right now. Most of the time, as people have seen in the raid, like we want to try to keep those transitions as clean as possible. And we're not sending any extraneous data that we don't have to, just to make sure that our clients are communicating the way they need to and loading the way they need to.
Okay, we'll take one more question from this section, and it's from Hoarder Gamer. He says, any chance of heavily repeatable events with variation, like a rift in the game Diablo?
I'll say this, what I said before, which is there's a chance. There's always a chance, right?
Okay, yeah.
What's that chance? I don't know. We'd have to have a really good design for something, and it'd have to be something that we think people would want to engage in. Rifts work for Diablo, and it's a really good thing for their loop, their seasonal loop.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it necessarily makes sense for us. I think a version might. But I don't. I have to figure out what the hook is, right? Like what's the motivating factor? Because a lot of people compare like, well, this game has this feature. Why doesn't Avengers do that? And it's like, well, that feature works for that game, and you don't want to be copycats, right? Like you don't want to just say, well, let's put in our version of this. Unless we know, like, the only reason you should be doing things like that in game design is because if you understand why it works, right? Like if you look at a system like everybody and their mom, after Fortnite became a huge success, everybody and their mom came out with Battle Pass, right?
Right.
But they didn't really understand what a Battle Pass did or why it worked for them. And so you had tons of games with failed Battle Passes. Or they're just like, this is going to make us millions of dollars, and it doesn't, because at the end of the day, a Battle Pass is not a monetization feature; it's an engagement feature. It's something. It's a long-term reward system that people come in and engage with. Yes, they have to kind of buy into it, but there's free tracks and all that sort of stuff. And so it's not like just putting a battle pass in your game isn't enough to suddenly have some huge new revenue stream. It's a good thing to give players long-term goals, things that they want to work towards and aim for. But it's not just like putting in a battle pass is not going to solve problems like that. You have to understand, why does a battle pass work for a game like Apex or Fortnite, and then say, okay, are we trying to solve the same problems that they did with theirs, or is it something different, right? If you look at the games that have successful battle passes, like Fortnite, like Apex, like Warzone, they're all PvP games. And so those battle passes work very well because their content that they have builds itself. Like they don't have to constantly try to refresh, right? Like they add in new maps and they'll add in like different spins on it. But like Battle Royale is Battle Royale, where ours is not a PvP game. And all of anytime we want to create new content, it has to be some type of new cooperative PvE content that doesn't have that same self-sustaining aspect. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about things like this and other things that games do well that we would like to, that we're interested in doing. But yeah, it's tough because trying to solve our problems with solutions for other games problems, that isn't always the way to go.
Okay. Oh, wow, that was interesting questions from the chat section, man. That was good, actually.
Really good questions.
There's one more. I want a bonus question I want to take real quick.
Oh, good.
Sure.
That's okay. So there's one that says, can you walk us through the process of putting together a roadmap for this game so the average player has a better understanding of the challenges?
That's actually,
yes.
I was going to ask that.
I can. Putting together a roadmap is one of the most difficult processes of any game, because you have to understand a lot of different aspects of your product at once and plan for the future in a very volatile landscape, right? Something new can come into game landscape next month and disrupt everything, right? Some new game can come out with a new hook, and now everybody's going to scramble to do that. And if you're stuck on your roadmap to do XYZ, and you're not trying to, try to keep relevant, stay relevant, things like that, you can be in a real rough spot real quick. So some of the things that we're looking at right now, and it's why this roadmap process is taking longer than I think most people would like, is that in the past we've put out roadmaps and we didn't have a full. I don't want to make this sound bad or like I'm throwing anybody on the bus, but like we didn't have a good idea of what finished looked for some of the stuff that we were putting on there, right? Like we knew, like I said before, cloning labs, like we had that on there. But what does cloning labs look like in a finished state now versus when it was originally built a long time ago? If we would take the cloning labs that was built a long time ago, and like I already said, that was next to shippable, and release it now, it would not go over well with our players, because we've built a lot of content since then. We've learned a lot. We've put together things like the raid, Omega level threat, and we've learned a lot from a lot of the pieces of content that we've built. And this doesn't account for that. So it would be like putting in a piece of content that we pulled out of the past, right? And so as we're looking at the piece of content that we have and that we've worked on and built, we want to make sure that that's not the case, because I wouldn't want to put in a piece of endgame content that functions like things from the period of launch when we hadn't learned from the last year and a half. And so what does that mean? Yes, it means it's going to take longer for it to get out, and we want to do other things to make it fit in our narrative, like I said before, so that the mechanics feel fresher, and that it's not just enemy soup or overshield like crazy like we saw a lot of times. So that means that we got to go back and we got to look. Now that also means that, like, obviously the development team size and shape and composition has changed from back when the game launched, because we were staffed up in a full level of like, this is what it takes to build a game and launch a game, versus now, which is, this is the level, this is a staffing level that you have to have a service game maintain, which is not the same. It's just not. And so what do we need to do, and who do we need to build the kind of content that we want to build, to take the content that maybe we built in the past and get that shipped in a way that we want to get it shipped? What do we need? And so a lot of that is like, okay, who do we need on our team, right? You know, do we need more designers? Do we need less designers? Do we need cinematics people? Do we need less cinematics people? Because retaining that headcount and those people impacts the profitability of the product, which means the more headcount you keep, less profitable you are, the less money you can invest back into the game. And so it's a very difficult balance to have, in terms of, like, I could just spew a whole bunch of things that we want to do and put it in a cool graphic and send it out and be like, hot damn, we did it. That's a roadmap. That's a damn roadmap. But it doesn't matter if we can't actually execute on it, right? Or we don't, or the team itself is like, I don't know that we can get that done in that time frame. So it's a very interesting process in order to do that. Because for us, like, me as a design lead, I want to get the team excited about what we're building, which means I need to work with them to pull together things that they've worked on or that we are working on, or come up with new ideas that they like, and say, okay, what can we do with this? Is this something that we're excited about, and that then we know our players will be excited about? And so you basically have to start from the ground up. And then you got to go through and you have to say, okay, let's design this out. Not at like the finite design level, but at a high level. And then you got to go through the whole production process of saying, okay, now we need to plan against this and figure out how long is this going to take? And not only how long is this going to take, who do we need? And if we need people that we don't have, do we hire new people for that? Do we bring on outsource partners? Like, do we hire an outsource company to come in and help us with this? Or, you know, any other options in terms of how we want to build and invest in the game. Because if we're going to spend the time and the money to invest in the game, like, again, we're still a business, and we have to be sure that, like, we're going to see a return on that investment, right? If we spend a whole bunch of money to build a new boss or a new villain or whatever it may be, we want to make sure that, like, it lands. And so when it lands, that we don't spend all that money and time and effort, and then people are like, this boss sucks, and they don't engage with it. Like, that's the whole point. So yeah, it's a very it's a very complicated process. And so I get tweets every day, which is like, roadmap when? And I'm like, when it's ready, right? Because like, it does us no good to put out a roadmap that we don't think that we can execute just to put one out for putting one out's sake. So a lot of this is me probably being a little bit more cautious about that than maybe my predecessors were, which is like, that's me. But making sure that when we tell you guys that we're going to be working on something and that we're going to put it out, that we can say without doubt that that's going to happen. That's why you're seeing us talk more in short-term aspects, right? Like, talking a lot about what's coming up in 2.3 and talking about the different things that are in there. And then after that, we'll be talking about what we're planning in 2.4. And a lot of those things, you know, a lot of, like, 2.3 is going to be a lot of stuff that most of our super high engaged hardcore players aren't going to really engage with that much. And that's okay, because it's about onboarding new players in, like, having the game on Game Pass. I know I'm going down a huge rabbit hole with this. I'm sorry, but like,
you're good.
Having the game go on Game Pass brought in a ton of new people, and it gave people who may not have been interested in you know, buying the box product before, a chance to play the game and come in and get hooked on it. And we realized really quickly that, like, Avengers Initiative really struggled in terms of onboarding players, keeping them engaged, and keeping them returning, like coming back in, logging in the next day, that week, because the goals weren't very clear, and the story motivation wasn't super clear. Like it Avengers Initiative was originally built expecting that you already played the entire campaign. And a lot of people who come in from Game Pass, they say, well, there's campaigns there, but I want to go in and I want to play Captain America right away. I want to play Iron Man right away. I want to do all these things right away. And I want to play with my friends right away. And I want to do these things because that's Game Pass players are they're very social. They don't want to spend a lot of time, investing in a game if they can't do something right away. So we spent a lot of work to kind of retool what used to be reigning supreme into now a new way for you to kind of progress through the different regions that we have. Regions are going to have like level bands now, so it's like your power level 1 to power level 25 or whatever it is. Eastern Seaboard's where you go, and Nick Fury is going to say, okay, we got problems in the Eastern Seaboard that I need you to go deal with. And like it's not like a super hand-holdy sort of thing. Like there's a lot of cinematics, but he says go to the Eastern Seaboard and you'll have an objective that says complete X war zones in Eastern Seaboard, and you see all the different ones that are available there, and you go and you do that. So it gives you more of a motivation and more of like a breadcrumbing to go through the different regions, where before it was just like, here's the map.
Right.
Yeah,
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
Right.
It's like a mini Ghost from Destiny, except in the helicarrier or wherever, shield base or wherever you guys going to set him up at. So that's cool.
And we know that it's not gonna be 100% when we launch it. It's about a lot of things when it comes. I've spent a lot of time on different games, like reworking new player experiences and new player intros. You got to pay attention to the funnel, and you got to see where people get stuck and find ways to keep greasing that, just to keep them engaged. Because the longer you keep people engaged in that, the more they come back, the more they play. Hopefully, they buy an outfit or two to help help pay for the game development. So it's all about that. And even 3.4, which we haven't really, or 2.4, I mean, which we haven't really talked about yet. And I'll give this little teaser. Our main focus on 2.4 is making our recurring events more rewarding, and giving by now, Corrupted Vibranium has been around 4 times maybe.
3 or 4 times, yeah.
Most people out there who have engaged with it have already gotten everything that they want from it, right? And like the first time it came out was right when Black Panther released, and so it rode a huge wave there. And then the second time it came out was right when I was like, hey guys, you might want to get a bunch of vibranium gear for the raid. And so everybody went nuts doing that, getting ready for the raid. And subsequently it hasn't, like, people haven't engaged with it because there hasn't been that real reason to do it. And they've got the nameplate, right? And they've done all that stuff. And so we're looking at making all of our recurring events, our recurring 2-week events, more consistent. So like some of them give exotics for every hero over 120 when you complete the meta objectives. Some only give it for the one that you're on, which means if you accidentally do it on someone that's not at the power level, you don't get anything, and that's a super feel bad. So like we want to look into making that consistent across the board, giving you reasons to giving players who have gotten everything that they want, even players that have done these events many times, reasons to engage with them. Units is going to be a big part of that. And then there's some other kind of cool stuff in the work with reward motivation for that, but I don't want to get into it yet. So
yeah. Thank you. You've given us enough, boss. Thank you. Well,
and then
guys,
whatever comes after 2.4 is whatever comes after 2.4.
Say that, dude.
But it's some cool stuff.
I'm expecting it to be cool, boss. You guys have given us a lot of hope today, so I'm crunk for it. So, with that said, you people, yes, you in the chat, y'all have 30 seconds to share this video. Share this video with somebody you like. Share this video with somebody you don't like, because it is fire or trash time. Let's go!
What's shaking, people? It's your boy DoomkillaHD. Sit back and relax. You are now rocking with the best. And welcome to another segment of Fire or Trash, where we take your favorite YouTube or Twitch streamer, content creator, and ask them a series of questions really fast. The only thing they can answer is fire or trash. Fire or trash, fire or trash. The only thing you can answer to the questions I ask. Fire or trash, fire or trash. The only thing you can answer to the questions I ask. Fire, or is it trash? Fire or trash.
Brian, come on, sit up here with me, Mr. Brian. Come sit up here with me for a second. Sit next to your new friend, Mr. DoomkillaHD. Sir, this is probably the most favorite game in our little community here. It is called Fire or Trash. I don't know if you've ever seen us play this. AJ and Alex are graduates of the Fire or Trash school. So welcome to preschool, sir. By the time we finish, I'm pretty sure you'll be a graduate yourself.
Okay.
The only thing you can answer is fire or trash. Fire meaning you like it, it's good, it's something you roll with. Trash meaning just get that away from me.
I am as a human opposed to calling anything trash just because.
Oh God.
I understand. It's the nuance, though.
Yeah. So this is going to be tough for me because especially like things that people work on, right? Like being a creator myself, I hate it when I see people, brush something off as trash because
I get it.
It may not resonate with somebody, but they worked on it. It may resonate with somebody else. So I'll do my best. But
I completely understand where you're coming from, and this game isn't meant to be harmful. It's just our way of saying I like something or I don't like it, So okay. I get where you're coming from, though.
Take a toilet paper if it helps you feel better.
I don't know that does help. I'm
like, bloody no, bro, no.
It helps me.
Oh God. All right, Mr. Brian Wags, let's get to it. Boba Fett.
Fire.
Chicken and waffles.
Pass. I haven't had it.
You can't.
It's pass. I can't. Fire. I like chicken. I like waffles. I've never had them together, so I assume it'll be fine.
Yeah, it is. Jack Daniel's whiskey.
Not for me. I guess that would technically be trash. I don't think it's trash. I don't drink.
Okay. Garth Brooks.
Fire.
Hey.
The Legend of Zelda, the first one.
Come on, bro.
Never played it.
Wow. The Scream saga from the movies.
Never seen them.
Oh my God. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Never seen it.
Come on, man.
You're killing me, right? Fried fish heads.
No, thank you. Trash.
Selma Hayek.
Fire.
Happy endings.
I don't know how to answer this. I like. What the hell just happened? I don't know what.
Hey Brian, how you doing?
I have no idea what's going on right now.
Okay, it's fine.
Next.
Oh God, I haven't not even read the chat yet, bloody. What is the chat talking about right now, dude?
The chat's always undefeated.
Oh God. Sir, you have officially become a graduate of Fire or Trash. I know you have no clue what's going on. But you have just passed with flying colors, bro. Okay. I guarantee you that.
Good.
Oh God. He said, I have no clue how to answer that, man.
You did better than Howard.
Okay. Oh God, my stomach is hurting. That was so fun. Thank you for playing, boss. I really appreciate it. I really,
Yeah.
really do.
Okay.
Oh God. It's time for a vibe session where you can just sit back and relax. Now we'll throw a little bit of music on and actually get to know who Brian Wagner is. And we'll actually just some random questions about life. I mean, nothing too personal about Brian or anything like that. But
Okay.
like our first question is, on your off time or when you're, just relaxing, you're chilling, what kind of music do you listen to, boss?
A lot of different stuff. My dad is a high school band director, and so like growing up, he influenced the type of music that I listen to a lot, which is like I listened to a lot of like classical music and jazz music and stuff before I ever got really into like pop music, like and so there are days when I'll be listening to I don't know, I like a lot of soul and R&B.
Nice.
There's a band that's like started in the 60s called Tower Power, and they're a funk and soul R&B group that still tours today. And they're my parents' favorite group, and I still listen to them. And then there's some days where I listen to movie scores, right? Or I listen to I'm scrolling through my iTunes now. Like, it's such a weird mix. I have like what do I have in here right now?
What's the last song you listened to?
The last song I listened to.
Yes, good question, buddy.
Is the theme from Peacemaker, the Wigwam song.
Okay.
Okay.
The last song before that, and this is how weird my tastes are, is a song called "Spin Me Round," which was done by two guys, one Augie Bello and Casey Abrams. Casey Abrams was on American Idol, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he plays upright bass, and he does a lot of like jazz stuff. I don't know if you guys know who Postmodern Jukebox is. Does a lot of stuff with them. And then Augie Bella, he plays saxophone, and I saw him first on TikTok, where he does a series of like adding saxophone solos to songs that never had them. And so he'll find like pop songs, and he'll add them in there, and like he's crazy talented. And so this song started from a TikTok thing where this guy posted a picture or a video of his dryer that was making this like rhythmic squeaking.
I saw that TikTok.
Yeah, and it was like my dryer trying to hit the Billboard Top 40 or whatever. And then like a whole bunch of musicians on TikTok would keep like stitching with it, and then like one guy would play bass, one guy would play drums, and then they like make these whole songs around it. And so they released a single on iTunes based off of the one that they did, and it's great. It's awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, I listen to a lot of different stuff.
That's cool, boss. I got a question personal to your heart, maybe. I mean, maybe not. But I know I love the game, and I only got to play it for 3 months. And I literally love that game, and I'm talking about Marvel Heroes Omega. What is your fondest memory of working on that game? Even, with whether it be with a team or just something that happened in the game that you're like, yo, man, we did that, and that was awesome. Like, your fondest memory of it.
I have a lot of really great memories on that game because it was the first design job that I ever got, and being a small indie studio, I got to do a lot right away. Like come in, and they're like if you come in as a associate designer at a lot of larger studios or publishers, it's like, okay, well, here's where you start. You do all this grunt work and whatever. On Marvel Heroes, like I came in and they're like, we just need help with everything. So I was originally there to help take some of the load off the person that did a lot of their itemization work and some of their monetization stuff. But I designed some heroes. There were some pieces of package content that I concepted and designed and owned, like our tie-in content for Civil War, I did the whole design for, and that's probably one of the things I'm proudest of. We did a huge, anybody who played that knows that like we did it was like a 4-week rollout of like this escalating stuff, and it started with just like we added these little newspaper clippings at first that dropped in global loot tables that were about like superhero overreach and stuff like that, and then week 2 we added some more of those, and then we added some like protesters outside of Avengers Tower in Midtown, and then we added Crossbones in, and a dungeon where you go in and he blows up this hospital, and then we added in the Civil War aspect where upon login you picked whether you were Team Cap or Team Iron Man, and then you got dailies for whichever one you picked, and then there were like these leaderboards for who picked what, and a whole bunch of different stuff. It was really ambitious, and I still can't believe that we got all of it done, including like versions of the airport fight from Civil War for both factions. Like if you picked Team Iron Man, you were fighting against Cap and his guys, and if you picked Team Cap, you were fighting against Iron Man and War Machine and those guys. And we actually made it all happen. I don't know how the hell that happened. It was a lot of work. Yeah.
Okay, a question that I like to ask everybody, because if I had superpowers, I would want super speed like the Flash. So if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Time manipulation, probably.
Ooh.
It all comes back to I just don't have enough time in the day.
I need 28 hours instead of 24. I get you, boss. I get you. Okay. If you could add one hero and villain from any Marvel universe that you would want to into the game now, and this is just anybody you want to, not that's going to come to the game. Just like if you could pick a villain.
Like I got asked this question already, and I delicately danced around it.
I think you did. That's probably why it's back.
All right. If I had to pick a hero that I would love to get into our game, I think at this point, I think it would just make sense to find a way to get Captain Marvel in, because of where our narrative has gone, right? And I love Sandra Saad with every fiber in my being, and just awesome. Being able to hear her playing Kamala, interacting with Captain Marvel, I think would just be like the most wholesome shit that anybody would ever be able to put together, and I think that'd be great.
I agree.
Villain wise,
oh
man. Villain wise, I want to see where this Roy Ultron thing goes. That's if I could do anything, that's what I would want.
Who's that messing with the cosmic cube? It was Ultron all along. Yes, indeed, sir. Yep. That's two people who I would love to see in the game. I've actually done videos on both of those people, so yes, sir. I'm really hyped up. I know that's just people that you personally would like to see in the game, but for me, that's people who I want to see in the game too.
One of the coolest conversations I've had in the last week was, what is a post-Kree invasion Avengers look like? Ooh. Like our narrative is all about preparing for Kree invasion, right? And if you could flash forward in time, what would a post-AIM, right? Assuming Monica's dealt with for good, and Kree invasion does come, and however that works out. What's a post Kree raid Avengers look like? What's that world look like? What's the challenges that you would want to tackle then?
Hopefully going back and get that tower back. Get Avengers Tower back from AIM. You know what I'm saying? Like, hopefully we can do that. That's something I want to do too. You know, I know that's something you cannot talk about.
This is not like this wasn't like a planning thing. This is more of just a sitting around with a couple people at work and saying like, you know, as we're charting the future of the game, what does that look like? What does that world look like? And as we're going through the rest of, you know, if you assume of you know, the eventual final conflicts with AIM and, you know, the Kree invasion, as it looks like is going to happen, or, you know, is supposed to happen. What's that world look like? And is there anything that we would want to do while we're still fleshing out the rest of this story to help set some of that stuff up? So.
Whew, okay, last question, Brian.
Some pretty cool names came out of that conversation too.
You feel like name dropping?
Nope.
Okay. Brian, do me a quick favor, boss. This is the last question from me, and then I think Bloody's got maybe one or two from you in this particular section. Just, can you describe the perfect boys' night out? Like, you got a couple of guys you're really cool with, and you guys are going out. What are you guys doing?
I don't go out. That's the thing. Like, it would just be me and some guys playing games. I'm too old to go out and do crazy stuff anymore. And so there's some guys that I play games with. Most of it we do Avengers raids twice a week, and so and then we'll, you know, sometimes we'll play some Fortnite. We played Sea of Thieves before. We played a whole bunch of different games. But that's really what it is for me. It's just getting those guys together and we just kind of shoot the shit and have some fun. And
that sounds like a good night out to me, though, man. Like, yeah. I mean, me and Bloody do that sometimes. Just get together, play some Avengers with the crew, and that's a good night to me. Yes, indeed. I saw revealing too much on your crew one time. I was like, oh gosh, y'all are really going in right now.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there's he and I will play games on the weekend sometimes too.
Yes, indeed. Nice. That's cool. Shout out Revealing. One of the mods put Revealing's info into the chat so people can go check him out if they don't know who he is. Which, if you don't know who Revealing too much is, you probably live under a rock somewhere. So get from under that rock and go check out my homeboy. He's always streaming on Twitch, so check him out. Bloody, did you have a question or two for Brian before we turn off this couch music?
So, you know, we talked about Marvel's Avengers, but let's for me, I want to get more about like the person Brian. So Brian, like, tell us, man, like, what do you like to do? What are some of your hobbies? You could have like a top 5 favorite hobbies.
Ooh, 5 hobbies? That's a lot of hobbies. How about top 2, bro?
I'm not that excited.
I mean,
so
what do you like to do?
I talk about this sometimes on my streams, and I know what it's like to work in a career that you don't give a shit about. Like being an IT auditor, like I knew, like I just didn't care. Like I worked with people who were like super passionate, and they're like, I want to be the best audit, and they're like, they want to climb the ladder, and I'm like, I just don't care. It was like my life was like Office Space, and I'm like, I don't really like if I'm a good auditor, like I don't work. Like I knew that I needed, like it was important for me to get into a career that I was passionate about, because I do my best when I'm passionate about what I'm working on. It's why I feel, this phrase gets tossed around a lot, but I feel super blessed to be able to, like, I mean, my working at Marvel, right? Like my first true job in the game industry was working at Marvel. Like that's insane. My first design job was working on Marvel Heroes, which I had been a huge fan of for a long time before I went to work on it. And then, you know, even working at EA, like I'd played Madden. I'm a huge football fan, and so I played Madden for years, and being able to work on that, seeing my name in the credits on that was pretty wild. So like for me, I just want to be better at my craft, and so taking on this new role on Avengers has kept me super busy. but I love it. Like, first off, my position's fully remote, and so I live in Orlando, and of course, Crystal is 2 offices on the West Coast and one in Texas, and like most of the people that I deal with are based out of the West Coast. So I spend most of my day. I get up at normal human times, and I get a couple hours in the morning where I don't really have to worry about people bugging me or no meetings or anything because they're 3 hours behind. But my days will normally go pretty late. Like, it's not uncommon for me to have like meetings that go until 8 or 9 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock at night. And then I just like to hang out with my wife and disconnect and watch some TV. But like on the weekends and stuff, I just play games, and I'm always trying to learn. I'm trying to see what games do well, what games inspire me, what are some things that I enjoy playing. Like, I always try to think about our game in like when I'm working and I'm like, I can't wait to be done for the day so I can go play X. Like, what's that feeling, and what hooks me that way, and what could we do? Like, how do we replicate that feeling, right, with ours, and how do we get people that invested in our game? And so I don't know, everything for me just comes back to like trying to just be better,
being better
at what I do work wise, because like this isn't just a job for me. Like, it's my career, and I'm super passionate about it. And so I just want to be as good as I can, because I know we're all not around for a long time. So do what I can, do the best that I can. I learned super early that like, don't take anything for granted, right? Because Marvel Heroes went away way before any of us thought it would. So, I spent a lot of time just thinking and planning and designing in my head. But yeah, I play games. I like to spend time. I'm a big fan of just storytelling in general. So like, my wife and I spend a lot of time, like, we're rewatching Walking Dead right now, and yeah, I play a lot of Hearthstone lately. I collect 6 scale Marvel figures. I have a lot of them, too many. Got my cats. That's about it. That's me.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I got one more question for you in this section, and then we'll leave you alone and let you talk to the people yourself, boss. This question is, have you gotten a chance to check out any of the community events, like the Secret Wars events that Doom Squad put on, or the Tournament of Power, stuff like that, where it's kind of, we made our own PvP events and kind of got the community involved in it. Did you have a chance to check out any of those things? And if you did, what did you think of it?
I didn't when they were happening, but I did after the fact. And I mean, I love when the community puts those things together. I think that's really good. For me, it's always a really cool thing to see people excited about, stuff that I work on. And so seeing people get excited to the level that they're, putting together their own events, and they're fostering their own discussions. And I try to, not as much as I don't have as much time to do it during the day as I used to, but always tried to pop into different people's streams from time to time just to check in on them. And even if I didn't say anything in chat, or they didn't know who I was in chat, just to kind of listen. And because no matter what the feedback is, it's important. And so looking for people who can give that feedback in a rational manner and a balanced manner is super helpful, because it means that I have a new avenue of I don't want to say feedback really, but just a new outlook, right, on what our product is. Because like, I live it and I breathe it, and I spend all day working on it. I play it at night. I'm raiding twice a week on 4 or 5 different characters. Like, I am entrenched in it, and so it's super easy for me to get like a very one-dimensional view of where we are from my point of view. And so I always like to take a look at what are other people's takes on it, new players, players who've been here since the beta, casual players, you know, all sorts of stuff. And so anytime the community does things like that, I may not speak up, or because sometimes just being in the room and people knowing that I'm in the room can alter kind of the feedback that you get. But I'm out there and I'm keeping an eye on stuff and filtering that stuff through and seeing what it is. I mean, I read our subreddit on a daily basis.
Ooh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You know, it is what it is. Again, it's another vector of feedback. I'm not saying that it's always the most constructive or the most positive, but I mean, they play the game just like anybody else, and so it's important to know what their thoughts are, and keep those in mind as we're doing things like putting the roadmap together, right? Like, you know, what are their wants, what are their expectations, and what can we do to try to make, because it's a very specific type of player in our community, and it may not be the biggest segment, right? It may be the loudest, but it may not be the biggest. And so, you know, you have to, it's kind of a Chinese menu approach is how I kind of explain it, which is like, you got to do a little bit of stuff for like the hardcore. You got to do a little bit of stuff for the casuals. You got to do a little bit of stuff for you know, those in between. And so getting a feel of like what each of those different player segments want and expect, and then constantly trying to juggle that and balance it. So yeah, I'm out there a lot, looking at community events and popping into people's streams when they may not know that I'm there. And sometimes I'll say hi, sometimes I won't.
Y'all better be careful in them streams, y'all. I'm just kidding, y'all. Y'all do what y'all do. Well, Mr. B-Wags, this is the section where we like to, we call it throw you to the wolves, which is we'll remove ourselves from the screen. You can tell the people in the chat that are watching, and people maybe who want to watch the video on demand, anything you like to tell them, maybe about yourself, about what you're doing, or whatever. It's just your time to shine. So I will be removing myself in bloody, and we will be back right when you're done, boss. So have fun with this, Captain. Thank you.
Well, this is awkward. It's not really, because I guess I haven't streamed as much lately, but I don't know. I've talked a lot about myself tonight, and it's tough for me to do that. I normally don't talk about myself a lot. I like talking about things that I do or things I work on. But yeah, I guess if there's everybody, obviously everybody who's watching this or listening to this or whatever, you know, they're invested in Avengers and invested in the product. And I guess if there's one thing I could get across is just that, like, the team is working as hard as humanly possible to make the game the best that it can be. And sometimes that means we can't do some things that we want. Sometimes it means we have to do some things that that we didn't expect we would have to. And so priorities get, you know, kind of moved around, and sometimes we are able to communicate about that, and sometimes we aren't. But this is our jobs, right? And it's for anybody working in the game industry. We know that this is more than just a job, and like this content, this game especially spent when it came out, you know, during the pandemic, like it's important to a lot of people, and so we're doing everything we can to honor that, and we want to make you guys happy. We want to make sure that you guys have fun, and try to do everything that we can. And so I know it can be tough at times, you know, waiting for what's next and not knowing, but we're doing everything that we can to give you guys the best experience that we can. And I just appreciate I appreciate everybody who spends any time in the game. I appreciate you guys who you know, foster these communities, and I appreciate everything that you guys have done and continue to do. It means the world to us at the studio. It means the world to me just as a designer. So you guys can always, I will try to give you no bullshit assessments of things when I can on Twitter. You can always reach out to me and ask questions, and I will tell you as much as I possibly can, and then let you know when I can't. So you're always welcome to reach out to me there and ping me. But thanks again for all the support.
Man, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being yourself and showing us who you are, who Brian Wagner is. You know what I mean? The man behind the keyboard, man behind, just not the roadmap guy. You know what I mean? So thank you for all of that, boss. For real, seriously.
My pleasure.
This is our pleasure. Like, thank you, man. Like, seriously. Like, I've had an incredible time tonight. The chat was great. So thank you guys out in the chat. I mean, I knew you're paying to be here, so I would expect you guys to be super cool. So shout out to Miss Place, Joe Dirty, Alien Fodder, Suki is okay, Hoarder Gamer, Cute Little Chaos Kitty, Mammoth Eagle, so many people. Grimmier Gaming, Jay Shockblast, Sadat the Gamer, Bob Duck and Weave, Texas Ed, Pewter Odin for the lovely I can't even stickers and whatnot, bro. Ross L and so many more. It's just a lot of y'all. It's 100 and something of y'all out there tonight. So thank all of you guys for tuning in. This was a blast. Bloody, you got anything you want to tell the people before we get up out of here, boss?
Man, was this podcast tonight fire or trash? Put our fires in the chat there. We all
don't do that. Don't put them on the spot. Bloody, don't put them on the spot.
No, this is good. I mean, I don't get enough opportunities to talk about the development process with people, and it's why I stream on my own, and I haven't for weeks now, just because this new role at work has kept me incredibly busy. But I love talking about the process. I love letting people kind of know what's going on, and as much as I can, obviously, and talking about, why we make X decision and why we make Y decision, and we can't always make the easy decisions, and sometimes the hard decisions are shitty. But it is what it is. So, I'm always happy to talk about that and come on here and let people ask questions that I may not be able to answer, but take a stab and do what I can.
Hey, man, we greatly appreciate it. And you and the team are always welcome. If you guys just want to come on and just chop it up, let people know what's up. This is an outlet you can do it on anytime you want to, man. So just let me know. You've got my DM anytime you want to DM me. Just go ahead and do so, boss. Thank you again, boss, for everything as far as the game. It's literally one of my favorite games to play, to stream. That's the only game I stream right now anyway. And I love doing the content on the game, man. It's brought me and so many people in this community together. There would be no DSG without Marvel's Avengers. So, I mean, you see all of this stuff behind me, man. Thank you, and thank you again. So, chat. It was a fire podcast. I am greatly appreciated all you guys for stopping through. Bloody, best co-host on a Sunday night. Brian, thank you again for being an awesome guest and allowing us to peer into your brain, man. Thank you so
Anytime.
much.
Yep.
With all that said, guys, laissez les bon temps rouler, which means let the good times roll. Peace out, people, and thank you.
Excelsior Now podcast.
Hey, go!